Hello everybody, it's been about a year since I've made a video essay, so please give me some slack. Essentially, I've created this video today for people who are researching the effects of racial bias, but also want to invest their time in a work of art that will help them reflect on their own self-presentation as well as their perceptions of others. Essentially, I want to make people more aware about how they view others and how those perceptions can be easily shaped by stereotypes, assumptions, or narratives taught to them when they were young and have now become internalized without them even realizing it. I want to help people understand communities that they aren't a part of or that they don't belong to. And Yellowface, written by David Henry Hwang, is a wonderful play that helps reveal the gap between who someone really is versus how society chooses to view them, especially in the context of an Asian American identity. So, let's just hop into it.
Award-winning playwright David Henry Hwang.
Somewhere out there, our star is waiting for us to find him.
Part of something bigger than myself.
You really want to help the community?
Yes, but
Then take off your mask. I'm willing to go out there and lose my face. How about you?
Presentation is something that matters to everybody, whether it's the way they present an important slideshow at work or the way they structure their social media profile. Arguably, the most important presentation that all people worry about is their self-presentation, how they present themselves to others and how they're perceived. However, self-presentation becomes more complicated when stereotypes and racial biases shape the way people interact with someone of a different race than themselves. For many Asians who live in America, discrimination and prejudice is something they face on a daily basis. It's a common experience how their identity is watered down to prejudiced assumptions stemming from long-standing cultural misconceptions or stereotypes. Throughout history, especially during moments of national stress, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, Asian communities have been the subject of harmful stereotypes that distort the way their self-presentation is perceived. Yellowface, written and published in 2008, is a semi-autobiographical play based on a real-life event, the controversial scandal of casting a white actor for an Asian role in the musical Miss Saigon, which aired in 1990. The actor was accused of yellowface, Hwang using that as the starting point in his play, Yellowface. Moving into the world of the play, Hwang strongly opposes the casting choice, yet he himself accidentally casts a white man, Marcus G. Dahlman, later known as Marcus G., in his own play called Face Value, which was originally written to protest the yellowface casting from Miss Saigon. As Hwang tries to cover up his mistake by fabricating a story about Marcus's heritage, he creates a web of lies that could threaten to undermine his credibility and role as a defender of Asian American representation on the stage. As Marcus's career began to skyrocket, it further complicated the truth that Hwang desperately created and was now paying for. At the end of the play, it's revealed that Marcus wasn't a real person at all, but a character that Hwang had created in order to bring light to the line between authenticity and performance in racial representation. Marcus was a symbol for how society often treats something like racial identity as superficial, something that can be performed, altered, or manipulated depending on what narrative is more convenient or helpful. Though much of this play was written to bring awareness to the use of yellowface in popular media, there were other events before that had brought the Asian community into the spotlight, unfortunately increasing the amount of prejudice and discrimination towards Asian Americans. In 2007, there was a mass shooting at Virginia Tech that was committed by a Korean American student, sparking controversy with how society perceived the Asian American community. Despite the shooter being an American citizen for a long period of time, the media still regarded him as a foreigner. After the news report, something called the perpetual foreigner stereotype was reinforced tenfold. Essentially, it meant no matter if the person was born and raised in the US, they would be treated as a foreigner. Along with the stronger prejudice towards Asian Americans, this event magnified the pressure placed on Asian individuals to manage their self-presentation in ways that didn't add to the harmful assumptions and stereotypes. Hwang's play highlights how these moments of public scrutiny, whether in casting controversies or national tragedies, reveal a deeper systematic issue, that Asian Americans are often denied the right to define their own identity. There is a double standard that has just become America's societal norm that just infuriates me so much. It doesn't make sense that in America, if anyone commits a crime and their race is other than white, an entire community is looked down upon and harmed both mentally and physically. Meanwhile, if the perpetrator is white, the thinking shifts towards individualism, a lone wolf, a troubled person, or mental health issues are being used rather than blaming an entire community or racial or cultural group. This process of thinking just adds to harmful stereotypes and creates a lack of sympathy where minority groups, including Asian Americans, are forced to carry the burden of consequences that have nothing to do with them, but are simply associated with them because of their community. Seeing Yellowface doesn't only serve to entertain, but also gives the audience a chance to reflect on their own lives and self-presentations. Personally, I think that a show like this is more impactful simply because it's able to connect with the audience in a way that is eerily realistic to daily life. The main character going through challenges, though comedic, have a deeper underlying meaning of personal struggles that many Asian people wouldn't openly talk about. This show, it creates an insight into how identity is negotiated both privately and publicly, revealing the pressures of assimilation, the fear of being stereotyped, and the emotional toll of constantly managing being perceived by others. It would encourage not just you, but everyone who watches the show, not only to recognize these dynamics, but also question their own assumptions, biases, and performances of identity. Ultimately, Yellowface becomes more than a satirical production. It becomes a mirror that invites its audience to confront the uncomfortable truths about representation, belonging, and the complexities of cultural authenticity. Though this play was written in 2008, many of the racial prejudice present in this writing is still relevant in our current society. The COVID-19 pandemic was a rough time for not only Asians around the world, but in the US or places where Asians weren't the majority. It was during this time that many people of Asian descent were experiencing increased violence, discrimination, and hate that was fueled by xenophobic rhetoric linking the pandemic to China. One of the main events that kickstarted the Stop Asian Hate protests were the mass shootings that occurred in Atlanta in 2001, resulting in the deaths of 6 Asian women. There were other cases of physical and verbal assault, with many of the victims being elderly individuals who were targeted simply because they looked Asian. It frustrates me how these instances reflect a broader pattern. How when fear, uncertainty, or a crisis arise, marginalized communities are the first ones who get the blame or become the scapegoats. What happened during the pandemic showed firsthand racial biases and systematic prejudice that Yellowface examines. This shows that the attitudes embedded in the text aren't relics of the past, but ongoing issues that continue to shape real people's lives. This connection not only highlights the play's continued relevance, but also underscores the urgency of confronting these biases in our present society. Given the fact that America is supposed to be the place where immigrants go for a better life, or the American dream, it's not as great as people believe it to be. As there's been a recent revival of Yellowface in 2024, starring Daniel Day Kim, it's given me a slight idea of how I'd direct my own production. This play is a very dialogue-heavy show, and in most of the stage notes there's no clear indications of what the setting is or where the characters are. The only thing that Huang includes are props, chairs for a live interview, a voice recorder, and various drinks that characters indulge in during the different scenes. Personally, I would love to keep the set and staging fairly simple. There's not much emphasis on technical aspects in the script itself, so I want to use that as inspiration for my own production. I want the audience to focus on the dialogue and the characters, not being distracted by the set or the lighting. With this play using dramatized realism, I think a minimalist approach would heighten the performance, allowing the raw emotions of the characters to the focus of the scene. I imagine a flexible space, neutral walls or panels that are able to shift their positions on stage with only the most essential props brought on and off the stage by the actors themselves. Sound would also be an aspect that would be simple but important for the different scenes. I'd use small intentional cues, like the click of a tape recorder, the ambient hum of a rehearsal room, or quiet murmuring to mimic a live audience. In this way, it grounds the scenes in reality without dictating a specific physical environment. With these technical parts, the production relies on the actors and text to carry the narrative, much like Huang's original intentions. Throughout this video essay, we've discussed how Yellowface exposes the tension between self-presentation and the way society chooses to interpret racial identity. We've looked at the real-world events that shaped and inspired the play's plot, the hypocrisy and double standards that Asian Americans continue to face, and the way stereotypes can overshadow a person's identity before they even speak. What makes Yellowface so powerful and entertaining, beyond its humor, irony, and theatrical chaos, is its ability to hold up a mirror to both personal and collective biases. It forces us as the audience to think about where our perceptions came from, what we've accepted without question, and how easy it is for performance, identity, and stereotypes to blur together. If a play from 2008 still resonates this strongly today, that says more about our society than the play itself. So, if there's one thing I hope you take away from our time together today, It's the importance of paying attention, the importance of being aware, and the importance of being intentional. Not just about how you present yourself, but how you present yourself to others. Challenge the assumptions that seem automatic. Question the narratives that you've unconsciously learned. Awareness isn't just an academic exercise, but it's a way to create a safe space for communities and people to exist without the confines of stereotypes. I appreciate you watching through this video essay. If it made you think, reflect, or even just a little bit uncomfortable, it means I've done my job right. Hopefully, it inspires you to approach identity, representation, and communities with a little more awareness and a lot more empathy. As always, please like and subscribe to stay up to date with all my videos. Thank you!